the leather steering wheel cover on Herbie. So I'm doing just a regular cross stitch on this one. On the 73, I did a different style stitching, and I looked at it, and this is what I had before, and I kind of like the way it pulls together. I just decided I'd do it again. When you do this simple stitch, it's going to be fun with me trying to hold the phone at the same time as showing you guys. So let's see if we can get in here. So when you're doing this simple stitch, you're crossing, as you can see. You're bringing this across like that. You're going through the hole in the back. If I can find it without looking at it. Maybe not. A little bit difficult to do this one-handed. Okay, so when you find your hole on this side, again, you're bringing it over like this. You're going to run it through the hole this way, and as you're going through, you're going to bring it through the front hole and then bring it back over again. So, and then before you complete that stitch, you want to pull this tight like this. If you found that it's too loose, you can actually pull up on it a little bit and do this. This is a tedious job. It takes a long time. The company that supplies these covers say it takes about 3 hours to do. And I don't doubt that, because I've been working on this for, I'd say probably a couple hours. Tonight I had some problems originally with the stitching. And as you can see, all I have done is not even quite half of the steering wheel. That's because I was doing a different stitch originally. The issue you have here is you really need to use every hole. And you see, because you have the spoke here, you've got a stitch that looks a little bit odd. But that's just how it is. Now you can skip holes, but if you skip holes, you have to skip holes in the back. Originally I did skip this hole in the back, but then when I came over here to start again, it just didn't look right. So I don't mind having this stitch up here. It's not that big of a deal. But if you're super OCD, I guess that probably would create a problem for you. And for those of you just turning in, this is a 1963 VW Beetle steering wheel off of Herbie the Love Bug. And I've run a leather cover on this car for years. And the one that was on here is getting pretty sad looking. And I found this one on Amazon. What I'll do eventually, I'll put the link in the description. But the ones that I used to use on here were from Wheelskins. And they run right now probably about $80, maybe $70. Really expensive. They've gone up quite a bit. Found this one on Amazon for I think around $14. And I figured for the price I'd give it a shot and see. It's not quite up to par as the Wheelskins one. The edge of the leather here is just cut straight. The Wheelskins ones are kind of sealed over the edge like that. But I think this actually makes for a nice merging of the seams this way, as you can see here. I kind of like the way it is. Once you get started with the stitching, then you kind of develop a rhythm. Just getting started originally is the issue. And I'm sorry I can't show you guys with me holding the phone here, stitch by stitch. But we can try to see what we can do here. You guys have to just bear with me. I have to be able to see the hole. There we go. Get the hole in the back, and then you're just going to bring it right through the front hole like that. Pull it through. Oh, we got a mess here with the... look what happened. We got got tangled up. This is actually a good thing to show you guys, because if you're not paying attention, like I had this string hanging off the back, you can do this. You can end up looping it through. But the good thing is, it's not a big deal. If you mess up, you can either just pull this through or pull the needle right back through the hole. Probably going to be simpler just to pull the string out of here. And then we'll pull this out. I don't know how it got wrapped around the steering wheel the way it did, but it did. But it's out now. Threading this needle, I need two hands here, so bear with me. If you do this enough times, the thread just starts to fray, and then it's a little bit more difficult to pull it through the needle. But you could do it. All right, so let's see if we can do this again. Trying to hold it so you guys can see. Again, I'm blind, I can't see the hole. There it is. We're going across the top, like I said, and through the hole in the front. So we've got this across, pulling this through. When you get to this point here, you see how this is loosened up? You can pull on this, pull it together, get it nice and tight there. It's almost like tying a bow on a box. And then just get it tighter and keep pulling on it. You don't want to wrench on it too hard where you can tear the leather, but once it's pulled close, it stays pretty good. And we just do the same thing again. We go back, find another. Is it like watching paint dry, watching me stitch this, or watching grass grow? Again, it's tedious. Now see, we have a little bit of a gap here because I didn't pull it tight. But all we got to do is just kind of pull this out a little bit. Snug it up and then pull it tight. We're back in business. It actually isn't going too bad one-handed. I didn't think it'd be possible to really show you guys me stitching it like this. Really makes a nice difference on the car to have this leather wrap. You know, this is an old 60-plus-year-old steering wheel, and it's just hard. This leather wrap gives it a nice, comfortable feel. It's a bit sportier look to it. The closer you get to finishing this, the more difficult it's going to be to thread this through like this. And I'm having a little problems with this one, so bear with me a second. Occasionally on some of these steering wheel covers, the holes may not be punctured through all the way. That's something you need to watch out for. They do give you, in this kit, they give you 3 bales of string. So you can do different types of stitching. Here's a second one. Each one of them has a needle too, which is nice. So if you bend or break the needle, you've got a spare or two. And I don't really see how you could break these, but I guess anything's possible. You know, the amount of time it takes to do this, in some respects, it may be better just to buy another steering wheel. All right, again, I've got to. Yeah, I've been trying experiments with these live streams just to see, you know, if anybody's interested in watching car repair work done in real time. And you see a lot of edited videos and everything goes really fast and you only see the highlights and you don't see any of the mistakes a lot of times. And obviously me doing this, all right, it's kind of getting difficult to do both at the same time. There we go. Again, this is tedious, but I think in the end, it's a nice result that's worth it. Your fingers will be very tired by the time you're done. The manufacturer actually recommends you wear gloves when you do this. And I'll just say now, if you happen to miss one of the holes as you're going around, and that does happen if you're going fast, no problem, just to pull it back out, start again. Just take your time with it. The nice thing is once it's done and it's back on the car, you know, you're gonna have that satisfaction of a job well done. Every time you drive your car, you're gonna think, hey, I did that. And as you can obviously tell, the steering wheel is off the car because it's much, much easier to do this when it's off the car than it is to do it on the car, because you can, you know, just have a comfortable angle. You can move the steering wheel any direction you want. You're not confined to the car. You just sit in the seat there. Yeah, it's not a big deal to take this off. Not sure if I'm going to finish this tonight or not. Got to be up for work in the morning. But got a car show coming up this weekend. If you guys, anybody's in Florida, that's where I'm at, Florida, USA. We have the Lakeland VW Classic, which is a really nice show. Always have a lot of nice cars there. Great swap meet. That's coming up this weekend. And if everything goes right, I'll have Herbie out there. If you guys want to stop by and say hello. I don't know if any of you are into podcasts, but a buddy of mine named Joe has got a great new Volkswagen podcast called Dub Life Diaries, and he's on all the popular streaming services, but you can check him out. He's doing incredibly well with his podcast, and I got to be a guest on episode number 4. So if you wanted to check out some of my history in the Volkswagen hobby, you can check that out. But there's been, every show has had some great guests and just amazing information. You know, if you like to learn about people who are into this hobby, it's definitely a great podcast to listen to. Joe is a really good host, keeps things moving, keeps it interesting. Oh, now see here, I messed up on that one, but no big deal. I'll just pull it back out. And you can do one of two things. You can pull the thread off, or you can just stick the needle through the hole, whichever you find to be easier. The key to this, obviously, if you make a mistake, is you want to catch it sooner rather than later. If you've done tons and tons of stitches and then you run into that problem, that's no good. Yeah, I'm sorry if the lighting's not that great for you guys. I'm just working off an overhead lamp. I do have a headlamp, but it'll probably cast a shadow. Let me see. Is that better for y'all? You can see a little better maybe? And this stitch that I'm doing here is just a very basic stitch. They have different ones. They have a baseball stitch. They've got these cross stitches. The last one I did differently. However, the stitch that I'm doing on here is the stitch that I've had on the previous two leather covers. I was gonna do the other one, and I actually started it with the other stitch pattern, but then I just really like the way this is. It's kind of what it's had for many, many years. I've had this car for 30 years, and it's always had a leather cover on it. Can you imagine being in an automotive factory where this is your job all day long, to stitch leather steering wheel covers? Talk about some tired hands and fingers. Definitely is a labor of love, there's no doubt about that. You gotta watch this thread too. Sometimes you can get knots in them. Depending on how you pull things through, it may not. Yeah, I'm pulling this too. It's a lot of tension on your finger. You can see the lines in there, which is why they recommend the gloves. I'm used to doing a lot of car work, so it's no big deal. First time I did this, of course, I was worried that the string they give you is not going to be wide enough or long enough. Can you imagine spending a couple hours stitching this entire thing, getting to the end, and then finding out the thread is too small? That would be extremely frustrating. You guys are keeping me company here when I do this. Well, I'm about, I'd say, a little over halfway done. And it is my time, almost 11 p.m. So I'm probably not going to finish this tonight, which is no problem. You definitely want to give yourself a lot of time if you're going to be doing one of these. It's not a job where you can rush through it, especially if you want things to come out nicely. I will say the company, let me show you this here. So this is the brand, came off of Amazon, and it is pretty detailed. It tells you a lot of information and even has links to YouTube videos for the different stitching. Comes with a 3-year warranty. It is real leather. And for the price, can't beat it. We'll see how well it does long term. You know, will it last for 3 years? You know, only time will tell. It's going to depend on your environment, whether the car sits outside. You know, you get a lot of sweat and oils all over this. Okay, I can't see the hole on this one. There we go. It's doing pretty good for the most part, getting that in. It is a little bit harder to do this one-handed, like I said, holding the phone here. But I wanted to give you guys a real-time video that shows just exactly what's involved with doing one of these. Figure out if you want to do it. Do you want to take the time? Do you have the time to sit here and do this? You may want to do it, but you may not have the time. You know, in that case, you may just opt to switch out your steering wheel for something else. A lot of people do that. I like the look of the stock steering wheel, but I like the feel of a leather wheel. And not only does it, you know, feel nicer, it gives you a better grip, and it's a little more comfortable. You know, these old wheels are just hard plastic. That's all they are. Not like modern cars, which you've got cushioned steering wheels. So a leather wrap gives you a little bit of a cushion. Yeah, the closer you get to the end, then you get more motivated because your eye's on the prize. You want to see it done, get it back in the car. Difficult spot is the spokes here. Once I get up to here, I absolutely do need 2 hands, so I can't film. You have to be very particular. And make sure the string doesn't get on the other side of the needle. Otherwise, you're going to end up having to redo it. Now you see this mess I've got going on here. Look at this happens too. I don't know how things get jumbled up, but they do. And then you can end up with a knot. I have had a couple of knots doing this. All right. Yeah, so I'm gonna have to pull this out. Bear with me. Not sure if you guys can see while I'm doing this. This is like 2 knots in here. Anybody ever put like your headphones, earbuds, or something like that, the wired ones in your pocket, and then you pull them out and they're in knots, and you wonder how in the world that happened? That's like the same thing here. And it's just a matter of it gets twisted as you're pulling. Now see, it wasn't actually tied. It was just twisted to the point that it made itself a knot. But see, that's real time for you. That's some of the challenges you'll have when you do something like this. Difficulty on that one, getting it through. Now see this? See how the string is twisting itself around? Want to knot itself up again. It's kind of interesting because when you start this, the very beginning is the hardest, and then when it gets close to the string being out, then it gets hard again. My stopping point for tonight will probably be this spoke right here. The good thing about this is most of the time this thread is waxed, and you would think that the leather would pull apart if you stop, but it won't. Two of you guys are faithful hanging in here and watching this. Appreciate those of you who are watching. Again, I'm just trying to give you some real world experience of what it takes to do something like this, so you have an idea if you want to do it on your vehicle. Let's take a break. I'll show you, give you an overview of this wheel. So this is what we're dealing with right here. this was the starting point, which is actually the bottom of the wheel. You don't start it directly on the seam, as you can see here. But what's gonna happen is once we get all the way around back to this side, then it'll have to be tied and tucked in the cover. But you see we got a good amount done. We just got this last piece left. Like I said, once I get to this spoke here, I'm gonna have to have 2 hands. I think it's coming out pretty nice. What do you guys think? There's the seam. Well, I'm going to go ahead and get that edge done. Get this done here. One thing I'll point out, since I've got you, is when you line this up, obviously you want the seam to be in the middle. I would say put it on the bottom because you're looking at the top all the time. But make sure these holes around any spokes are as even as they can be. You know, you want them started even. When I set this up, this hole was actually kind of in the middle. It's moved, looks like it's moved a little bit, probably as a stretching and pulling. This one here is pretty much in the middle. But do your best to center them. You know, you may not care about it, but if you're OCD, you probably want it to be perfect. Thread is running thin over here, ladies and gentlemen. It's running thin. We're almost to that edge. Yeah. All right, I was gonna do a little bit more, but since I'm getting close to the edge, I'm gonna go ahead and sign off for the night. And I thank you all for tuning in. It was kind of interesting to do this. But I'll try to do more live streams. And eventually what I'll do is I'll set up a nice tripod so that you've got a constant view of different things. And it won't be something as monotonous as just stitching up a leather steering wheel. But I'll definitely post a finished video, probably a short, to my channel so you can see what it looks like in the car. And of course, I'll be bringing you more videos for the car show coming up this weekend. Anyways, you guys all have a great night. Or day, depending on when you're watching.